Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and when you think about it, Puhoy and Everything's Jake are two pretty similar episodes. Both episodes feature a character going into another world, where that world is made out of just one thing, and also ends up being a dream or a weird fantasy. Since these two episodes have quite a few things in common, I thought it would be fun to compare the two, talk about their strengths and weaknesses. But first, here's a description of both of these episodes. In Puhoy, Finn, Jake, and BMO are stuck inside the tree fort. While Jake is building a pillow fort, Finn is thinking about Flame Princess. He's thinking about how she didn't laugh at a joke he made. He crawls inside the pillow fort to let his mind fester, which Jake says is a bad idea. Finn ends up in a world of pillows. In Everything's Jake, Magic Man puts a curse on Jake to make him fall asleep and then dream that everything is made out of his flesh. I think the biggest difference between these two episodes is the tone. Puhoy is definitely the more profound and existential of these two episodes, with Finn going through basically an entire life only to forget about it mere seconds after he apparently dies. Everything's Jake is a lot more of just silly, lighthearted Jake shenanigans, with Billy West basically doing his voices of Fry, Zap Brannigan, and Professor Farnsworth from Futurama. Side note, rewatching this episode actually made me want to watch Futurama, so I did. Your preference here will probably depend on which you prefer, serious Adventure Time or silly Adventure Time. I like both styles of Adventure Time, however I find serious Adventure Time to be more interesting. One thing I could have done without in Puhoy is the parts with Jake and BMO. They don't really add much to the story and aren't very interesting. I get that they were probably there for comedic relief, however I didn't really find them that funny. I feel like more time should have been focused on Finn growing up in this pillow world. We go from him being 14 to at least in his 30s, and I wish we got to see more of the time in between that. That being said, this episode is still fantastic and really makes you think. Like, what would I do in this situation? Try to get back home, or just live out my life with my new family? It really is a moral gray area with no right or wrong answer. Though I'm not a big fan of the implication that Finn had sex with a pillow. I just don't like that. Man, Finn was pretty gross in Season 5, wasn't he? This episode is also the first appearance of Golb, where we see Finn as an old man just kind of bounce off of him. I actually have a theory that this was foreshadowing to the finale, where Finn just almost gets killed by Golb, but barely escapes him and survives. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I still think it's pretty cool how these are similar. Everything's Jake is kind of the opposite. I actually really appreciate how there's really no filler whatsoever in Everything's Jake. Pretty much everything is very important to the story. However, unlike Puhoy, there's nothing really thought-provoking or existential in Everything's Jake, which is fine, not every Adventure Time episode needs that. However, it does make this episode a lot less memorable than Puhoy. It's actually kind of weird that this episode took place in Season 6, since that season didn't really have too many silly and weird episodes. For that reason, I feel like this episode would be more at home in Season 2 or 3. That's definitely not a bad thing, however, I wouldn't put Everything's Jake up there with the best of Seasons 2 and 3. I mean, this episode has nothing on episodes like Death in Bloom and Hitman, which are both hilarious episodes from start to finish, and even comparing this episode to the likeness of, say, What Was Missing isn't completely fair. As you can probably tell, I think Puhoy is the better episode. While it's technically more flawed than Everything's Jake, I think this episode has a lot more interesting to offer and to say, and is just all around a lot more memorable and really sticks with you. But like I said before, it really comes down to which style of Adventure Time episodes do you prefer. Do you prefer more serious or existential episodes, or silly and fun episodes? And I just happen to prefer the serious episodes. Which, it's perfectly fine either way, you're not wrong. I'm not sure if I'd call it the best of Adventure Time. I hear people saying that this is one of their favorite episodes, which is perfectly fine, but I think there are other Adventure Time episodes that are more memorable and have more to say than this one. Maybe one of the best of Season 5, but the show as a whole, I'm not completely sure. Maybe like top 30. I enjoy Everything's Jake for its fun and creative story, but I wouldn't call it one of the best Adventure Time episodes ever. There are a lot of Adventure Time episodes that are funnier, more creative, and more memorable, and more interesting than this one. This episode's still perfectly fine. I like it and all. I just don't think it's amazing or anything. Which episode did you prefer, and which episodes of Adventure Time would you like me to compare in the future? I definitely have some ideas, but I'd definitely be open to whatever you guys have. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Kirby out.